In this series, I want to cover the proper way to go about creating sprinting. So this is going to be all done inside the character movement component, and it's going to be done the proper way. Now, what you see in most tutorials, including some of my very old ones where I actually set up sprinting, they're done in the wrong way. Put it plain and simple. There's no prediction or anything like that, so the end result for anyone above a certain amount of ping range, they're going to have a very jittery experience because their client is going to be corrected pretty heavily. So I'll show you that example of that here in a second. So what you commonly see is when you press left shift, you'll start sprinting. When you let go, you stop sprinting. So basically what's going on is you're just changing your Mac walk speed inside your character movement component. You do this on the client, then you make a server RPC. The server basically then changes your max walk speed as well. So that way you get kind of that instant response on the client and then on the server. So basically you sprint the client, then you sprint the server, if that makes sense. And this will work great inside the editor. You're not really going to have any problems because you're running on your local machine. You're not going to have any ping really at all. You're going to have no latency. The problem comes when you actually add latency. So here I'm running, at least I should be running at 300 ping to give you the example. And what I'm going to do is, as you can see, I'm walking around just fine. And then in some cases, even if I start sprinting, I'll be just fine. I'm within that kind of range of error. However, if I start tapping sprinting and all that kind of stuff to where I'm more or less using it how I would in an actual game, you can see I'm starting and I'm stopping, and this is causing some issues. And all that jitter is my client being corrected. However, once I am finished being corrected, the server and the client are then in sync. So as you can see here, now I'm smoothed out because we're both my client's been corrected to the server. So what's going on is, on the client, you tell yourself to sprint, and then you have to wait through all your latency to tell the server that you're going to sprint. This latency is the killer. So here in my amazing drawing here, we have this little black area right here. This is your starting point. Fill in that little dot. And this red character here, this is going to be your player, the one that you're controlling. And then this blue here, that is actually going to be the server's version of your player. So basically this is the location on the server that your client is. Now what's going on is, let's say you start sprinting on the client. So you start from here and you sprint. So you go all the way to here. And that's fine. Now let's say, well, let me phrase that. Now let's look at it on the server's perspective. So let's say there's X amount of delay. So there's some latency there between you and the server. So because you started sprinting before the server realized you were sprinting, you got to travel this entire distance here. So you on your own machine is right here. However, the server sees you as right here. So the server, when you started sprinting, because you're walking technically on the server, you are actually right here. So this is where the server believes you are, and because you want the server to have authority, the server is going to take you and move you to this position. So this is what's creating that jitter effect. So it's basically snapping you back to where the server believes you should be. So that is what we are actually going to be resolving by doing it in the character movement component, because it handles the prediction for you in all of the server correction. It does it in a very smooth way to where even at very high amounts of ping, you should not really feel any of this jitter. It should at least give you a very smooth experience. So that's what we're going to be setting up the next video. So all I want to do in this video is simply create the classes. So what we're going to do is just add a new C++ class, and this one's going to be of the type character movement component. And go ahead and select public. I'll just give this one the name of sprint character movement component. And then we'll be good to go. So go ahead and create the class. And once that's done, you should have your sprint character movement component.h and the .cpp. So we have basically everything we need here to get started. And in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to just set basically all the bare bones stuff that we need in here. So it's commonly referred to the boilerplate. So basically that's going to be everything that we need before we can actually get started in implementing the sprinting. So once we get that set up, I'll go through and explain what everything is doing. Then I'll explain what we're going to do. And then we'll actually go through and implement sprinting. Because, I mean, to put it simply, even though the character movement component is massive, once you have the base of it down and all the boilerplates set up for you, it is really not that difficult to work with and add new things. So once you get through and you add the sprinting, you might have some kind of mental notice in your head that clicks and says, huh, I can use this for blank. And you'll be able to implement that without really too much trouble. Because it's intimidating at first, but just like working with Unreal Engine with C++ from Blueprint, it has that kind of wall. But once you get over that wall, it's really not that bad. And most of that wall is just kind of the intimidation factor. So we'll dive right into that in the next video. So I will see you then.